It's time for practice one for the children of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. We are on the edge of a severe thunderstorm watch. The radar is clear for now, but we're keeping a close eye on it. Let's go over to your commentary team of Indy Radio.
The next hour and a half or so in totality, but the green flag has already been put in the air on this initial 40-minute session, and Davey Hamilton, for those that may have bemoaned the gaps in the NTT IndyCar Series schedule, that complaint can be tucked away for the foreseeable future, because I think the next weekend we are at home is June 8th.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be a while. Every weekend, and all of May from here on out, we're racing and then go straight to Detroit. So I love it. You know, we love it. I know you do as well. I mean, being at the racetracks where you want to be. I think this is a really good momentum streak for the IndyCar Series. Obviously, we have here at Barber, we got the GP at Indy, and then obviously a weekend of qualifying for the Indy 500, which is always exciting, but then the biggest race in the world, and I'm excited for it. And with the competition level, the way it is right now, I mean, the cars are so close, it's going to be absolutely outstanding. Not only there, but every race we go to.
I suppose you could go back even further, Davey, because there was a two-day test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago, and quite frankly, that kind of got the juices flowing and getting us ready for the month of May.
Yeah, and it just told us kind of what to expect there, what kind of speeds to expect. Obviously, the cars added some weight with the hybrid system. They're a little bit slower than we normally see them, but that's okay. I mean, it's not exactly about speed. It's about how competitive the cars are. And then one other thing I got to put out there. Remember Ray Hall Letterman? Last 3 years we've been talking about how they've really struggled. They're really hard to find speed. Well, they got Takuma Sato in one of their cars. Just set the fastest non-tow lap, which means it's like a qualifying run at a 2:32. Unfortunately, got into the wall pretty darn hard after that, but that tells me that those cars are fast.
Made the observation that with 34 cars attempting to qualify for the 500, it's unfortunate that only one. I guess you could feel a little bit better about it if there were maybe 35 or 36, but quite frankly, that one car is going to be a huge story, which is part of the amazing tapestry of that event.
You know, as a driver, and going into that race, and if you were to miss it, you hope there's one other guy at least, right? That there's 5 guys, and there are 2 of you go home, not just you. So, and going down to the list, I've picked a few guys out, like this is the team that may struggle, or this is the driver that may struggle there, but I tell you that it didn't show it in the test, so I was completely wrong. So I don't know. I really don't know who to point, who that would be. It may be so close and people having to hang it out so much, it may be the guy that's the most unfortunate with the crash, honestly.
Much has been made of the potential three-peat by Joseph Newgarden, and sticking with that theme, Scott McLaughlin has a chance to three-peat here at Barber Motorsports Park.
There you go. That's right. He sure does. And you know, I mean, what a driver he is. We talk about him. When he first came to the series, we thought, is this guy good? He's a sports car guy coming over here driving Indy cars. He's really going to fit in. But, man, has he ever, and winning race. And like I say, going for the three-peat here at Barber. By the way, one of the most technical tracks we go to.
That's right. So Mother Nature may have a little bit of precipitation, maybe some storms headed our way, but that won't be till later this afternoon or early evening. Tomorrow looks a little iffy here and there, but all in all, more dry time than wet. Sunday looks spectacular, but it's a warm day here at Barber Motorsports Park. And let's get the specifics on the conditions by welcoming in Michael Young.
Good afternoon, Mark Janes. And I will say not a bit of rain in sight, at least for now. So we'll hold off. Hopefully the remainder of this day turned out to be a beautiful, not only morning, but afternoon as well. 84, the current ambient temperature. Track temperature's up to 120. So it has been certainly a warm afternoon. The teams have done their installation laps. They're back on pit lane, but the fans already adorning the back straightaway hills, enjoying a beautiful afternoon at one of my favorite race courses that we come to, Barber Motorsports Park. Took our golf cart around in some of the downtime today, and I say each and every time we come here, there's something new that you see that Mr. Barber has put up throughout this facility. It is, like we have always said, our Augusta of race courses. Just super to be here and a great weekend in one of the most beautiful parts of America.
A lot of things Marcus Ericsson is very, very good at, including winning the world's greatest race, the Indianapolis 500, but we have relied on Marcus over the past couple of years to kind of let you climb into the cockpit with him and take us on a lap around the various courses that we...
The severe thunderstorm watch issued by the National Weather Service has now expired.
feet, a popular spot up underneath the trees for all the fabulous fans over there. 17 turns in all, 7 to the left, 10 to the right. So how do these drivers tackle it? Well, here's how Marcus Ericsson does it.
Starting the lap at Barber, it's a very fast left-hander. You just click down 1 gear to 5th, throw the car in, use all the road and exit, and then you go straight into turn 2 and 3, which is this very long right-hander, sort of falls away. So you need to keep it somehow tight line and then get back on power earlier than you think to get power and get throttle on before you go up that very steep hill over the crest that leads down to turn 5. Late braking downhill, you usually go quite deep there. You don't really have to get to the apex. You can run a bit wide and still have a good corner. Again, important to get on power well because you have a semi-long straight leading down to a very technical section that's turn 7, 8. Which is kind of a quick right-hander that you fly over a curve and brake at the same time, down a couple of gears to 2nd gear, and then hit the apex curve in 8 to get the front to hook up. And there again, on power early. You can use the banking there to get on power a bit earlier than you think. You go through a flat-out chicane that's, I believe, 9-10, which should be just flat-out full throttle for us in an IndyCar, leading to a very fast section of the track, turn 11-12, very fast chicane, where you just do a small lift in 11 and then you brake and turn into 12 over the crest. The car gets light, it's easy to get oversteer, it's easy to go on the grass there. You see that every year people do that mistake. Then you go straight into a very long right-hander. You want to sort of bleed off the throttle easily, start braking. It's a very much a technique kind of corner where you have to have that throttle brake technique well. That tightens up in the end, so you need to get to the apex to prepare for the last corner. Semi-quick left-hander where you sort of do a small lift and then get back on full throttle, and that's a full lap of Barber.
And to tell you what was really cool is that while Marcus was describing that, Davey Hamilton had the track mat pulled up next to me, and he was kind of following along as Marcus was describing the course.
And he really does a really good job on describing this track. And one thing that I have on my track map, it's flat, but one thing I also have on my track map that we looked at earlier in the Indy Next with Nick is it shows the 17 corner course.
Right.
The one that Marcus had shows a 16 corner course. So we have 2 different track maps actually. One with 16 corners, one with 17. So we need to figure that out. And they're both, if you go on their site, you can find both 16 and 17.
Yeah.
So we just got to figure out which one we're going to go with.
The elevation changes here, I think it's going to be obviously an advantage for those that were, able to test here earlier in the season because we've not faced anything like this yet.
Yeah, and one thing Marcus didn't really say, I mean, that was a really good description of this track and when you get on throttle and where you need to be fast, but he did mention going up some hills and downhills, but the elevation changes and the blind corners here are really, really heavy, and you don't notice it that much, but matter of fact, majority of the corners here are blind, and that makes it very, very hard for a driver to make sure that he turns in right, he brakes right, and that's what makes this track so technical and so fast. And as Marcus said, it's a short track basically, but with that many corners, you're busy.
We might mention the fact that in terms of this session, the first couple of races, there have been some adjustments over the past couple of years to this initial practice session. We initially had a 45-minute session and then 2 10-minute sessions in which they divided it up between the even-numbered pit boxes and the odd-numbered pit boxes. Now for this race weekend, after conversations with teams and with drivers in an effort to create more track activity and give them a better chance to do qualifying sims, this is a 40-minute session, but then the even-numbered, odd-numbered pit boxes will be divided into 12-minute sessions.
Yeah, and not a huge difference, right? It's 5 minutes less in an all-skate and 2 minutes more in each of those sessions. But it does make a difference. I mean, just those extra couple laps you get out there in a clean racetrack could be the difference of finding something good with your car or bad with your car. So even though it seems small and minute, it's the same overall time basically. So fans don't notice a huge change, but there is a small technical change in the practice.
Well, our good friends at Firestone have brought some 1,500 Firehawks to the race. 5 sets are primary, 5 sets are alternates. Let's find out about the compound and the construction, Michael Young.
With Corey Williams, Principal Program Engineer for Firestone this race weekend. We just talk about the 5 and 5s, a little bit about this compound and what we can expect this race weekend.
So the alternate's the same compound that we brought here last year. The new compound is the primary. So again, kind of like we did in thermal, and the objective for trying to get a bigger gap between the primary and the alternates, we brought a little bit tougher, more durable compound for that primary tire.
So when you come to a track like this that has been on our schedule forever, how much tweaking do you do wanting to make a bigger disparity between the primaries and the alternates?
It varies by track and by year. The track's always evolving. It's aging. It changes basically with cycles through the year, year over year. So we always measure friction when we come out to the track before the event weekend, monitor that. The cars are changing a little bit too, so this is the first year of the hybrid system at Barber. So we always kind of tweak it and tune it based on that data that we collect through year over year.
So to not give away too big or too many company secrets, how big of a swing do you do when you make a change, especially to these primary tires? Is it a huge one, or you just do a little increments, not wanting to go too far?
So that varies too. So we can do maybe some, we'll call it bigger swings if we have a test, dedicated tire test, but then based on the knowledge that we have and the data from a tire test, or year over year team feedback, team testing, race event information, we can kind of dial those changes back and tune them, we'll say a little more finer too.
How close to the race event do these actual measurements, what you want to bring for a race tire, actually go into production to bring here at Barber Motorsports Park?
I'm sorry, what was?
How close to the event are these tires made? How many changes, and then when do you decide this is what we want, and then when do these tires go into production?
So that depends too, honestly. Barber, these were made a little while ahead of time because there was a test coming up earlier in the season. So we wanted to get the tires that they were going to race on available for their test as well. Other events, for instance, like a track repave, we might be developing a tire a couple months basically before that event. So it all kind of varies depending on the need.
So this first session, what is your job officially? What do you do during this first practice session to keep yourself busy? What do you monitor?
We'll monitor pressures, tire temperatures, internal temperatures, monitor the appearance of the tires, gain feedback from the drivers and the engineers to see how the tires are performing relative to what they're designed for. So a lot of tire monitoring and data collection.
Thank you for your time. As always, we'll let you get back to your busy day.
All right, thank you so much.
That's Corey Williams, Principal Program Engineer, of course, for Firestone. And Mark, as we know, they are the very best in this NTT IndyCar Series. We can always count on Firestone and an amazing product they bring in week and week out.
Corey Williams, Kara Kristalik, thank them, obviously, for the insight that they provide us each and every week. And we appreciate the relationship we have with the folks at Firestone. So recapping, Davey, construction of the tire is the same as last year's tire, but they developed a new compound for the primary, which increases the durability and a decrease in grip as compared to last year. As far as the alternate, unchanged from last year, but they really think that the degradation is the unknown because of the addition of the weight of that hybrid.
So that's a key point. So anytime they change that compound and go harder, it definitely makes your tire last longer. But he's right, the speed goes down. Now, we have the same alternate, but I think, you know, alternate was kind of a favor here. I think it worked out pretty well here last year. But actually adding 105 pounds to these cars, and with so many corners and so many high-speed corners, it could affect, as we just say, it's going to be exciting. The first races of the year, the first three, that alternate tire wore out pretty quick, and so the teams wanted to get them off as quick as possible. Not so much at Thermal, but at Long Beach and at St. Pete. So yeah, I think we could maybe see the same thing here. It keeps it exciting for all of us.
If the goal is to get more track activity in this initial session, I think the change in the lineup has had its impact. With 27 minutes remaining in this session, and we've had 23 cars take laps already. Alex Palou is the fastest at a 68.340. Then it's Scott McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden, Alexander Rossi, and Devlin DeFrancesco. Kiffin Simpson, Santino Ferrucci, David Maluka, Stingray Robb, all about turning laps. As we mentioned, Christian Rasmussen, Ritas VK, Callum Eilert, Kyle Kirkwood out turning laps, the Long Beach winner. Rosenquist, Abel, Daly, they've all turned laps, along with Armstrong, Erickson, Schwartzman, Power, and Rahal. It makes sense that the rookies were among the first out, Davey, because they get an extra set of tires.
That's right, get an extra set of tires and let the rookies go out and get a little extra track time. Also helps maybe get a little bit of that Firestone rubber on the racetrack. I did notice the very first lap out, McLaughlin, that final corner 16 coming off onto this front straightaway, he went off course through the grass back on, but then the very next lap he set P1 and then Pelot came and knocked him off. But you know what else? Not just talking about McLaughlin winning 3 in a row. His teammate Newgarden has won 3 races here. He's won 2. I think Powers won 1 or 2. So Penske really seems to have a wrap on this track for as far as the team.
This will reaffirm that for you, because between Power, Newgarden, and Scott McLaughlin, they have led 439 total laps here at Barber Motorsports.
Yeah, that tells the whole story right there.
Michael Young.
And conversation with Scott McLaughlin. It's coming off that transporter ready to go, and these cars have always been good here at Barber Motorsports Park for whatever reason. But Scott McLaughlin with that off, you talked about it, Davey, then sets a quick lap. They're already going to work on their damper package, and that's one of the big keys for this Penske organization is their damper package. And they are going to change a couple of the springs, not only at the front end, but looking at the back end of this car as well as they shine it up. The Good Ranchers, the meat wagon, as Scott McLaughlin so affectionately calls it, going through some initial changes, trying to get a good balance to that car.
Will Power 4 poles here to go along with his 2 wins and 5 podiums all told. McLaughlin going for the 3-peat. Joseph Newgarden, as you mentioned, with 3 wins. 8 wins total, including Elio Castroneves in the early days of the event here. So Team Penske definitely loves this racetrack.
Yeah, they love this racetrack. The momentum seems to be on their side. I do recall that they didn't always have the fastest car, but had the best strategy or got a little bit of luck on their side. But right now, I mean, that team seems to be good. And remember, there's 2 other cars basically with that team now, and that's Ferrucci and Malukas. And that AJ Foyt racing program, they have a technical alliance with Penske, so they could be quick as well this weekend.
This is a place of rarities, and we're talking about Scott Dixon. In his history here, only driver, Scott Dixon, that has been in all of the events here. And how about this? 9 podiums, no wins. Scott Dixon has been the bridesmaid here 6 times.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and when you say Scott Dixon and hasn't won there yet, that you can only say that at very few racetracks. And unsurprisingly, when he's the bridesmaid that many times and not pulling off a win, very surprising. But you know that this is one he wants to knock off that list, and he's going to do all he can to try to get his first win here. That is for sure. Obviously, the season started off pretty good for him. You know, we expect him to be up front for sure.
Okay, so if you're mapping out race strategy here, at least early on in the season, and I don't want to jinx it and turn Sunday into a crash fest, but the reality of it is, with the exception of turn number 3 at the very first lap of the season opener at St. Petersburg, we have not seen a caution flag. And this thing, quite frankly, over the years has been fairly clean. Boy, I think there's been, I don't know, 4 or 5 times maybe we've had as few as 1 caution.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that's got to be part of the thought process when you start figuring the strategy.
When you look back all the way to St. Petersburg and that first lap accident, and thinking that is the last time we have had a yellow flag in this series, is pretty remarkable. And that just tells you, you know, number one, how good these drivers are. It comes down to the drivers at that point, and the engineers making sure the cars are right, and just their you know, wits to get with them, and how to drive races. And that's so impressive to me that few yellows, because usually even a breakdown, even a mechanical, you'd think could happen in between them, but right now it's they're on quite a streak.
Pelot continues in that P1 position, and again that time is at 68.340. Want to add another note which impressed me, really just blew me away with Scott Dixon. He's, as we mentioned, 13 top 10s here. Now, get this. He has no poles here, but he's been in the Fast 6 12 of the 14 times that we've raced here, and he's completed every lap in competition here at Barber Motorsports.
Well, it's one thing about Scott Dixon. It is about consistency, and he is Mr. Consistent. I mean, he's always there. He's always in the front, like you say, qualifying, Fast 6s, on the podiums. No wins, but if you add all those points up, he'd be the champ for sure.
Kiffin Simpson is going to get a 10-minute hold at the into this session, the fire throttle switch was in the off position while he was on track. Danny, explain what that means.
Very easy to do. So there's a switch with your fire system that's actually underneath the seat, kind of underneath your legs, Mark, and it's fairly hard to get to. And you have to make sure before you start your weekend that switch is turned on, just in case something happens, the fire system works. And that's something that could happen fairly easy because it's not just out in the open. It's not easy to get to. You got to dig in there to get it, and unfortunately that crew missed it.
Well, our friend Townsend Bell, who's of course part of the TV broadcast, knows what it's like when that thing goes off in the cockpit.
Yeah,
that happened to him when he ran for Panther Racing. Well, I think it was in Kansas, wasn't it?
I think it was Kansas. That's never fun either, and we know that there was a failure with a fire system in Thermo with Schwartzman, and that's not good either. So you got it. This series is all about safety, and that's a big safety issue.
One of the drivers has gotten off to a good start this season and hopes to carry that momentum into the month of May is Felix Rosenqvist, a 7th place finish at St. Pete. Thermal Club, he finished 5th. At Long Beach, he finished in the 4th position. 100 NTT IndyCar starts coming up for Felix Rosenqvist. 6 poles, 19 top 5s, and 44 top 10s, and Alex Wolff caught up with him earlier today.
So Felix getting set for a big weekend for you, 100th start in the IndyCar Series, just to sort of reflect on that a bit.
Yeah, it's gone quick, I have to say, but also you look back and it seems like a different time and a different Felix back in 2019 when I joined the series, but definitely learned a lot, man. I'm a very different driver and a person today than I was then, and in a good way, kind of gives a bit of perspective how much you're pushing yourself in this series. You try to be better, and also all the other drivers is looking back, everyone's just kind of responding to the increased pressure and competitive level that the series just keeps getting better and better every year. So I think that's the cool thing about it. At the time you thought you were the best you could be, and then 7 years later you're like, if I could go back in time, I would probably win everything, So, that's just competition in general.
And as you reflect on the 99 previous starts going into your 100th, what's a favorite memory or memories from the time you've spent in the IndyCar Series?
I think my win at Road America was really special. It was something you'll never forget. And honestly, every time being at the IMS during the 500, I think that's a very, it's a few selected people that get to do it, and I enjoy it more every time I go there, and I get better and better. And I think I was a bit terrified in the beginning, to be honest, my first year, and now I learned to love it in a different way. So the IMS is always very special.
Now as we get ready, heading into the month of May, but of course have the race here at Barber. A good start to the season, 4th in points, and your 2nd season with the Meyer-Shank Racing. Just to reflect a little bit about that.
It's been a good start. It's still early days, we have a whirlwind of races coming up here in the next couple of months, and no, I think we're ready for it. It's been kind of a slow start to the year, and everyone's ready to put in the next gear on this thing, so good to start off the month of May here in Barber. I think we've been pretty solid on all kinds of tracks so far. We're good on the street courses, good on the road courses, and also at the open test we seem pretty good, so seems like we have a pretty good opportunity for the year. Just keep the ball rolling.
We talked a little bit after qualifying in St. Pete. So much was made going into the season about the new technical alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing, and it seems to have paid dividends here early on with the runs you've had. Do you think it helps that you spent some time with the Ganassi program? You got a teammate, Marcus Armstrong, that has just come from that program. Do you think maybe it helped you guys hit the ground running a little bit more than you would have otherwise?
I think so. I mean, honestly, if you look back at it, last year we had a really good start of the year as well with Andretti, and they're both great teams, so we're super lucky to work with either of them. I think the Ganassi integration has been super smooth. It's been good to have Marcus there. He's been there for a couple of years, and it's good to have him as a sort of safety net, if you like. And also, I used to race for Ganassi back in my first 2 years in the series, and
it's largely the same group of people, which is kind of cool. So it was very easy to just kind of hit the ground running and know who you have to go to ask for different things, to get different things. So yeah, super. It's actually very impressive when that's another thing about the 100 races, because Ganassi is also very even if it's the same people, it's a very different team to when I started. Like they've also responded to pressure and gotten better. It's kind of cool when you haven't been there for 5 years and you come back and get introduced again to the organization, how much they've pushed themselves, and I think that it's just a thing for the series in general. Is kind of cool.
Well, certainly a great milestone of the 100 starts, so congratulations on that, and we hope for many more great experiences for you in the NTT IndyCar Series.
Thank you very much.
Coming up on 200 laps complete in this session by the 27 drivers, 16 minutes remaining in it, and there's no question, Davey, that Felix Rosenqvist is walking around with a spring in his step. Yeah. You know, for a couple of years, you and I bemoaned the fact that Felix didn't have a problem with his qualifying setup. It was either a self-inflicted wound or something out of his control that really hampered his results. But boy, the first couple of races of this season, I mean, he's been a contender week in and week out.
Yeah, that's right. We did talk about that, Mark, because we felt like he is so good, especially in the qualifying setups and really getting the most out of that race car and getting the most out of himself. But then it was just always long race. He just couldn't get, it wasn't there at the very end to get him those wins. But I think that's changing. I think, as he mentioned, sound more confident and comfortable than ever before. You know, I expect to see him in victory lane. There's no question about it. And as we see Colton Herta and Will Power jump to 1-2 right now, putting Pelot in third.
Power was P1 for a while. Then Colton Herta just jumped up there. We're looking at a 69.239. Power, Pelot, McLaughlin, and Kirkwood the top 5. Ericsson, Armstrong, Newgarden, Rahal, and Ferrucci in the top 10. Scott Dixon 11th, Nolan Siegel 12th, then Felix Rosenqvist 13th, Connor Daly 14th. Louis Foster 15th, Pato Award 16th, Rossi 17th, DeFrancesco is 18th, Christian Rasmussen is 19th, Giffen Simpson 20th, Callum Ilott 21st, 22nd Stingray Robb, David Malukas 23rd, Jacob Abel 24th, Robert Schwartzman 25th, Rinus VK 26th, and Christian Lundgaard currently 27th fastest. A couple of the drivers have only turned 3 laps. We can only figure that's tire management. Race strategy going to be a key here, Davey. Maybe qualifying strategy a bit more so, because the lowest start by a winner here in 2012, Will Power started 9th. So you definitely want to get into the round of 12 to kind of help that race day plan.
Yeah, no, anywhere we go anymore, as competitive as it is, you definitely want to be in that top part of it. To Fast 6 is where you really want to be. But Will Power, some of these drivers, I think Will Power had a bad, I think it was the last couple races. He hasn't qualified that good, but it's fine. You know, he gained a lot of positions throughout the race, so we know he can get it done. But to really win, you have to start towards the front.
Will Power was 5th at Long Beach after starting 13th. He started 21st at Thermal, was able to come home at 6th.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's part of the deal we're talking about. He is really, really good at that. And Colton Herta, I mean, let's go to him. It means he's on top of the charts right now. He's been, I think, fastest in all, whether it's a practice, a qualifying run, or sometime during the weekend at one point or another at every race. So Colton really seems to have the confidence. That team seems to be really gelling together with that Andretti program, with Gamebridge on the side of his car. He seems to have a lot of good speed this year, just hasn't finished off for a win yet.
Well, I'll tell you, Andretti Global, not to think anything with Felix Rosenqvist, who we just heard from, and what's right is right. He has been strong. His teammate Marcus Armstrong has been strong. I don't know that collectively any race team has unloaded as fast as Andretti Global and been consistent throughout the course of a weekend leading up to race day as that team has.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's really something there. You know, a lot of off-season change with Michael Andretti not being open. As we talk about that, we see one of the Ed Carpenter cars go off course, get out there in turn 5, back on a racetrack. But yeah, we just it's interesting. We're going to watch that play out. But with Michael being gone, something's changed there, and I'm not saying it would be the same with him there or not, but a lot of changes throughout that winter.
12 minutes remaining in this session. Michael Young.
With Adam Rovazini calling the shots for Felix Rosenqvist. We just talked to him earlier in the day, his 100th race. You've been with him now long enough to form an opinion. This team has had a heck of a season thus far.
Yeah, we have. We just got to keep it going. We're excited for Felix, trying to race something to be proud of. Hopefully we can come away with a good result here, maybe even the win. Who knows?
How has the new alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing affected this team and the way you approach a race weekend or how you test in a race?
Yeah, race weekend, that's the big thing. Chip Ganassi Racing is the best team at racing. So if there's anything we wanted to really focus on and learn, it was how to race like them. Still got a lot to do. They've been extremely helpful. The alliance is going great. Couldn't be happier.
I know Felix just left. He had the primary tires on. Those are the new tire compounds for the weekend. Does he have an initial thought on the compound? Have you learned anything about them yet?
We'll just say it's much better than we were at the test here.
Okay, well, that's fair. So as long as you're improving, that's always a good thing. Best of luck this weekend.
Appreciate it.
That's Adam Robazzini, the race strategist for Felix Rosenquist.
Yeah, they're all smiles, and understandably so. 11 minutes remaining in this session. Colton Herta continues P1. Will Power second fastest in Palou, McLaughlin, Erickson, and Kirkwood. So Davey on point. We talked about Andretti Global, and here they are in this first practice session with 11 minutes to go. You've got Herta P1, you've got Erickson P5, and you've got Kyle Kirkwood P6.
Yeah, all three cars in that top 6. Now, there are two, there's one Penske car, or 2 Penske cars, and one Ganassi car up there as well.
All the Penske's in the top 10.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, the Penske's tough here. We know that stuff, but you're right. I mean, that Andretti Global team, really, they have something. They're off the trailer fast every weekend.
So we talked a little bit about this course and how challenging it is. We heard from Marcus Erickson. He took us on a lap around this. But for you, in terms of your trips around here, and you've turned lap after lap after lap to that 2-seater, there's a couple of turns, like kind of the S's that run in front of the museum, where I always think the cars look really cool, that they look oh so bad fast. But the signature portion of the course for me, and the one that I think is the most entertaining from a broadcaster's and especially a fan's perspective, is that entrance going downhill into turn number 5 in that area we talk about with Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, and we see so much action down there because that is really, really a good passing zone, Mark. And as you come down, you come up one hill and you're going down the straightaway, you think, okay, I can see pretty good. But what you can't see is that turn 5 corner. It's just blind. And then you got to go over that crest and make sure that you're not too late on your braking to make it through there. We see a lot of cars go off down that area. Fortunately, most of them come back on. There's a lot of grass, a lot of room for error down there. But that is right in front of us, and all the fans actually, no matter where you sit, that's a kind of the premier corner of this speedway.
Michael Young.
You talk about the cars that have been quick thus far, and Marcus Erickson being one of those. He has just put on a pair of sticker alternate tires. So the red's going on for the first time on that Bryant red Honda for Andretti Global. Marcus Erickson just now firing the engine. So we'll see quickly how these alternate tires will perform in this early part of the practice session.
Kiffin Simpson reporting to pit road to serve that penalty the last 10 minutes of this session, but that will make him still eligible for his portion of the shorter session, the 12-minute session that is to follow, depending on which group that he will be in. Davey, you were a little surprised with those 2 12-minute sessions that these teams have coming up. Actually, for them, it'll be 1 12-minute session. Yeah. They divide the field in half. Are you surprised that here in the last 8 minutes or so that someone's going with the alternates?
No, I think that's a wise move. Obviously, they're going to be qualifying those alternate tires, and I think that's really, the balance could change more than you think from the primary to the alternate tires. Just that extra grip. Is it extra grip in the front? Is it extra grip in the rear? You might have to change the balance of your car just a little bit. And remember, tomorrow it might be rain, may mean nothing, but then you still have the race that you have to run a set of alternates on, or, a set of each on stickers regardless. So this could be a really good opportunity for race setups as well.
I know Thermal is considered a quote-unquote road course, natural terrain road course, but it's flat.
Yeah.
And I know there's probably some similarities between St. Pete and Long Beach, although Long Beach does have the elevation changes and whatnot that I don't think St. Pete really has. But my question is it a point to where it's still kind of a blank sheet of paper, especially for those that didn't test here, because of the fact that you're coming here with the changes in the compound, you're coming here with the additional weight, and this place has so many elevation changes?
Yeah, no question about it. And this one here is, like I say, is so technical, and you are on the edge of your seat. These drivers, every lap, they're making risks trying to find the edge of the speed on these corners and where they can be fast or not, and it's really easy to make a mistake. So this is the most challenging so far this year for sure.
Had a really cool conversation this morning with a guy that we used to cover on a regular basis when he drove for Team Penske and other teams, Ryan Briscoe, who's with the Prema team now. They're staying at our hotel, and had a chance to catch up with him this morning. And we go back to the discussion about the hybrid, and I said, you know, what's been the biggest challenge? He said, well, you know, for us in terms of offering advice, but certainly for the drivers, they're still figuring out how and when to best use it.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's really key. I mean, I think that it's so new to everybody, and do you use it in a certain area, and then does it take more time to charge the unit back up before you deploy it? I mean, so you got to regen it, and then you got to get it full, then you deploy it. But sometimes what we're seeing is the regen takes up more time than the deployment and to take advantage of it. So still a lot of work, a lot of guesswork on where to really use that.
Herta, Power, Palou, McLaughlin, Erickson the top 5, Kirkwood, Armstrong, Newgarden, Rahal, Ferrucci the top 10. 6 minutes remaining in this session, Michael Young.
You know, it's always fun. Pre-race introductions, getting ready for the field to take off at the start of a race. And you look into the pace car, and there's Oriol Servia piloting it. You're never quite sure if he's going to do something ornery or stay completely serious. But Oriol, it's so great to see at the track. How did your pace car role come to be?
It's a beautiful track. Honestly, this when I was active driving, or now just the pace car. I cannot believe how many years I've been doing the pace car, actually. But I always look forward coming to Birmingham, Alabama. Barber. Barber is an amazing track. Maybe the most beautiful motorsport complex in the country, in my opinion, with the museum and all the art around. It's done with great taste. The track is a lot of fun to drive, even with a pace car. So I'm always excited to be here.
How did that role begin with you driving the pace car for the IndyCar series?
Actually, somehow, Jay Fry, I remember when he called me last minute, like the week before St. Petersburg, I don't know how many years ago, 6, 7 years. It's like, hey, buddy, I need someone for the pace car. Are you available? I'm like, sure. And it started as a one weekend, and then I think it's like 6 or 7.
Okay, so we seem to have unfortunately lost connection with Indy Radio, so while we wait to establish that connection once again, let's go for a deep dive into the radar that I just showed up on stream. Okay, that severe thunderstorm watch that I said had expired by the National Weather Service, well, it turns out the reason that it was expired was because they were going to publish another one, and that expires in 4 hours and 50 minutes from now. And as a severe thunderstorm watch in place for portions of northern Alabama, and it is effective this Friday afternoon and evening from 1:55 p.m. until 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And as you can see, primary threats include scattered damaging wind gusts to 65 miles per hour likely, and scattered large hail events to 1.5 inches in diameter, with thunderstorms continuing to spread eastward and across the watch area through the afternoon and early evening. And the strongest cells will pose a risk of locally damaging wind gusts and hail. Let's have a look at the severe thunderstorms that are en route to the circuit. And as you can see, let's just do a rough circle around Barber, where the 68, 80 miles away. So it won't affect the session, but it'll affect this evening's running of events trackside and events down in the pits area and the paddock, and anyone camping over as well. Possible thunderstorms and severe weather right in the middle of practice 2 and qualifying tomorrow as well, which we will have to keep an eye on. But if we have a quick look at this, and these severe thunderstorms are moving east at 35 miles per hour. So if we get our good old tool out, these will reach Barber Motorsports Park in around, let's just have a quick look. Just gotta find the area in the millions and millions of locations that it gives you. There we are, 125 minutes. So just over 2 hours. So as I said, it won't affect practice 1, but it will affect the evening's festivities with camping and events in the pit lane and paddock. Let's quickly have a listen if we have reconnected back to Indy Radio. No, we haven't. So with just over 1 minute of this session remaining, let's have a look at the timings and go through the timings. At the moment, it is Marcus Ericsson who is top with Devlin Di Francesco. Colton Herta, Santino Ferrucci will power your top 5. And it's Alex Plow, Scott McLaughlin, Cole Kirkwood, Marcus Armstrong and Joseph Newgarden in 10th place. Then Graham Rahal, Scott Dixon, Nolan Siegel, Felix Rosenquist, Connor Daly rounds out the top 15. And then 16th down is Louis Foster, Patro Ward, Kiffin Simpson, Alexander Rossi, Christian Rasmussen, Stingray Rob and Callum Ilott. And hopefully we will be able to join Fox with their commentary. Let's try now.
Because this is really one of only one team, Hunkos Hollinger, that did not test here. Meyer Shank is another, but they had the partner team. Ganassi is another, but Meyer Shank was here. So it's just Hunkos Hollinger and Andretti. Connor said, you know what, this has been traditionally one of my better tracks. The team has pretty good data here. We tested in Indianapolis. There's some things that carry over there, so he was cautiously optimistic where things were going to be. And he also said, hey, if it rains all day Saturday, then all that test doesn't matter at all, and we're right there in the fight. And he has been good in the rain before, too.
In the Cyclone Next Gen livery car this weekend, one of a number of cars with new liveries for us. We'll keep you abreast of all of those so you know who you're spotting out for this weekend as the checker falls here at Barber Motorsports Park. Marcus Ericsson, your fastest driver, from Devlin Di Francesco, Colton Herta, third fastest, then Santino Ferrucci and Will Power, your top 2 drivers, and your 4th place man, all on the soft tire, everyone else on the hard.
So that's the first segment of practice done. 5-minute break, and then we will split the groups in half, and each group will get 12 more minutes. That's when we'll see.
Let's go back to Indy Radio.
It looks like 4 of the drivers put that alternate tire on for this last all-skate, but we're going to see pretty much everybody probably with that alternate tire on for this final 12-minute session for each driver.
Let's go back to Michael Young.
With Kyle Kirkwood getting set for the Barber Motorsports Park weekend, and just heard you talking about the fact that you didn't get an opportunity to test here. Does that put you behind? Where do you stand coming into this weekend, do you think?
I don't know if it actually puts us behind. You know, we used our tickets or tokens at other tracks, right? Which is in a way positive, maybe even for here. You learn things at those tracks that might translate to here. So I don't know if it's a big negative. Of course, you want to test at every track that you go to. It obviously helps you out, so maybe a little bit in a negative, but nonetheless, this has not been our best track in recent years in many ways, but anything can flip-flop, right? I think Honda's come with a really good package this year. That's been a huge step in the right direction for everybody, Honda globally. And yeah, I guess only time will tell how we are at this circuit. I'm not really sure at this moment until we get on track.
You're only as good as your last race and or test, and both of those went extremely well for you and the team.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true, right? It's a championship. We got 17 races, so you take your wins, you take your losses, and you cut them right there, and you go and focus on the next weekend. So we won at Long Beach, but now it's a completely different weekend, and everything we did at Long Beach can be kind of thrown away. I know a lot of people don't look at it that way, but that's the way you got to look at it in a championship mindset. Is you focus on the weekend that's in front of you, and that's exactly what we're doing here this weekend. So hopefully we come out of here with some good points and keep knocking on the door of Palou.
Coming into round 4, did you expect to be second in the championship, or are you where you expected to be?
I mean, I always want to be in the top 5 range. I think second's stretching what maybe I expected at this point, especially after the first couple of races. But it's extremely positive, right? It just shows how much winning in this series kind of propels you up the championship chart. So we got to get more of those. It's a good feeling when you just jump a bunch of people because of one win. So and as you continue to do that, it just gets better and better. And somebody's got to beat up Palou somehow, right? I'm the only one that's been able to do it this year. So and he only just finished second. So we got to continue getting wins and getting top 3s to be able to do something about it.
Double-loaded question. What do you expect from the alternates this weekend and the potential for rain in qualifying?
I wouldn't mind rain in qualifying at this moment, just because we've been good in the wet in the past. But alternates and primary tires right now, we're not really sure about the primary because it's a little bit different here. So I know the alternate's good. The alternate has been good here in the past. I don't think they changed it. It was good at thermal. So you can expect that tire, I think, to be pretty solid, but who knows? They changed up the primary. It could be an amazing tire now, so only time will tell.
Best of luck to you this weekend.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's Kyle Kirkwood.
Yeah, tire strategy was the key in getting that win, Davey. 46 of the laps completed. 46 of those laps he led in 46 of the 90, we should say. And that's the second time he's won it from the pole, and just a dominant day for Kyle Kirkwood. But as he said, if you want to gain ground on Alex Palou, you need Alex Palou to do something other than finish second in that race.
And it's first, second for Palou. Absolutely. I mean, he's the guy that everybody's chasing, and it shows that in the points championship. He has a nice lead right now. But as I said, there's 17 races in this series. That means there's 14 to go. And so it's anybody's game still, there's no question. But one thing Kyle said, the alternate tire seemed to be good at thermal, and that was the first permanent road course we were on. I expect that same alternate tire to be good here as well. It was good in the last few years. I feel that's probably going to be the primary tire, but to use throughout the race. But that the black sidewall, which I say primary tire, they have changed it. I don't think it's going to show the speed, but the durability is going to be better.
Christian Lundgaard with a podium finish, and don't look now. We talk about great starts. 8th at St. Petersburg, 3rd at Thermal, and 3rd at Long Beach.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's really impressive as well, right? So keep eye. There's the competition level right now, and I think it's going to even get closer as this hybrid starts getting figured out. I don't think you could talk to any team and say, oh yeah, we got to figure it out. We know exactly when to use it. We know when to deploy. We know when to regenerate it. We know everything about it. I don't think anybody here knows that, and I think once that first team really figures that out to be a benefit, and not basically kind of a distraction for the teams at this point, that they're gonna gain a little bit of performance.
I mean, we got to get to late July before we get to the 1 year mark. That wasn't in Mid Ohio.
That's right, Mid Ohio.
Yeah,
that's right. It started Mid Ohio is where it came out, and like I said, they ran it half last year, and here we are already at the 4th race of the season in 2025. And still so many questions on that system.
Yeah, and a lot of questions with some of the people that I've talked to, like Ryan Briscoe, Jeremy Billis with Andretti Global, and I don't know that necessarily all of their questions got answered in terms of the impact of the hybrid once we get to the oval at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Still a lot of questions with that.
Yeah, and then the Indy, that it's going to be as we see McLaughlin. He's been off track a couple times now. Once. Both sideways, what's coming off of that turn 13. Boy, he was very lucky not to get into that barrier. And then he did once off at the final turn 16. So he's had a couple offs, but his speed's still really good.
So this session is underway. It is a 12-minute session, and we'll give you the division and the lineup here in just a couple of minutes as they continue to work their way around that course. When we can look, here's the Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, Joseph Newgarden, Kiffin Simpson, as we mentioned, lost the last 10 minutes of the 40-minute session because of a penalty, but he's been released. Ferrucci, Power, Abel Dixon, Lundgaard, Rosenquist, Rahal, Daly, DeFrancesco, and Robert Schwartzman.
And one more, actually, Foster is in that group as
Louis
well.
Foster, okay,
Louis
yeah,
Foster.
we look over, he is the 15th
He is the 15th one in it, yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so he just exited the pit. So Louis Foster, and boy, I'll tell you what a difference a year makes. You remember a year ago when we were here with the Indy Next, and Louis Foster had electrical gremlins all weekend long.
All weekend long.
And I don't think he ever left in any practice, qualifying, or race. He never left cleanly from the pit lane. I mean, his guys spent more time working on that race car in the cockpit than he spent sitting in the cockpit.
It started from the first practice session. They couldn't get it going. Then the next practice. Then qualifying. He just couldn't start the last. But in the race, they got it working, and he did find his way. He worked his way, had a decent finish out of it.
He recovered well the rest of the season. I think he did okay.
And then the rest of the season, yeah, he definitely recovered.
He didn't let it hinder him, that's for sure. Let's go back to Michael Young.
We were talking about Bobby Rahal's driver, Louis Foster, and his woes last year in Indy Next, but came back with a fantastic finish. A little bit about this Englishman and the team and how you think he's progressing thus far.
Well, I've been very pleased with, what he's done so far. We haven't had a race without some issues somewhere, but his pace has been right there at certain points in the weekend. We need to get it all the way through the weekend, qualifying in particular. But he's shown he can. He's shown he's top 10 guy, and he doesn't seem to make mistakes in the race. I mean, he's only had 3 races, and yet I really think he can have a really good year. And clearly, I think he's the head of the rookie class in terms of his speed and abilities, but he was 4th quickest at Indy last week on the no-toe. I mean, it's pretty good for a kid who's never driven an IndyCar there before. So, so far so good.
What is he saying about the tires this far? Have you heard anything on the radio, the primary, the alternates?
No, I haven't. Although he's just now on the alternates. In listening to our debriefs, apparently the alternates are going to be much quicker than the primaries. So we'll see. But as I say, with Louis right now, I'm very pleased.
We talk about Indianapolis on the 20th anniversary of Denny Sullivan's spin to win, and then I can't remember exactly, but the guy who won the year after that's going to be celebrating a 40th. Can you believe it's been that long since you won the 500?
Well, I got to tell you, that's kind of hard to believe. 40 years. I mean, that's crazy, right? I guess I really am old. It's I've looked back on that day on more than one occasion. Just such a special day for all of us at True Sports that day, and obviously for Jim Truman. I feel so fortunate, so lucky to have won the race once, and it's going to be it'll be an interesting year next year. We're going to have a lot of fun, and hopefully we're going to win the race again.
Obviously, Jay Fry was added to the team after leaving IndyCar. You have Jay part of the organization now. I know it's been early, but have you seen an impact yet with his participation with the organization?
I think Jay just brings a different perspective to the team. Steve Erickson did a good job for us, but I think I think Jay just, as I say, that different perspective is something we needed. And I think so far so good. He's kind of like drinking from a fire hose right now. Anything with, whether it's the BMW side or just you name it. But I'm very confident that he can take us to where we want to go.
Lastly, you said that the car's quick, talking about Louis, Graham, but Takuma had that incident. Where are you with the car right now? Obviously, you're going to have to rebuild an entire car. Can you get it as good as the car he had?
No, the car's on the ground. It's pretty much done. There's still a lot of work to do. The guys on that car and others within the team have really worked very hard. They were up all night last night doing the body fit. So it'll be done. It'll be ready for Takuma. It's a shame. It's a shame we had that incident. We really didn't need that. But the thing about Takuma is, look at the guy. He shows up and he's immediately the fastest guy, and that's Takuma. And it really gets your blood going when you see them out there, and it's fun to watch.
Looking forward to a great race weekend from your team, and looking forward to seeing you the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Thank you very much.
There you go. That's Bobby Rahal, guys. Can you believe it? Next year will be the 40th anniversary of his victory.
And based upon the test of Takuma Sato and the speeds that he showed, very much in contention for a historic third Indianapolis 500 win. 6 minutes remaining in this session. Colton Herta shows the way right now at a 67.772. Then Lundgaard, then Foster, then Daly, then DeFrancesco, the top 5. Rossi, Ferrucci, Power. Then Abel and Newgarden through 10th. Dixon, Simpson, Rosenquist, Rahal, Schwartzman, Davey. What are you noticing that is different about the alternates as opposed to the primaries, if anything, about times?
Well, it's looking about 1 second or right in that range. I mean, it's a significant difference in times between what Colton was turning. Actually, you know, maybe not quite that much. I think he got down at a 108.4. He's a 107.7 now, so maybe that 3/4 of a second potentially in that area. But a little surprise right now with Power, Abel, and Dixon not on the primary test, still on that alternate tire. So I'm expecting they're going to give that alternate try in this last session, as we just see Power just now went out. So now it's just Abel and Dixon that have not ran the alternate.
So I guess the question would be, when it comes to these alternate tires in these sessions, and maybe going back to that previous session when a couple of teams ran them late. So what are we doing here? Is it strictly a qualifying sim, or are they taking a set of sticker alternates and running lap after lap after lap to kind of get an idea of what that deck will be like over a stint?
Yeah, so they're trying to do 2 things here, Mark, and that's number 1 is that see what the dag is on that primary tire. Just see how much the fall off is, what kind of speed you can handle in a longer run, but then you need to get this alternate on and do some qualifying sims just to see what the balance difference is and how much more speed you can gain out of them. And like I say, all but 2 cars, like I say, Dixon and Abel, have been on those alternate tires.
So again, 4 minutes 24 seconds remaining in this portion of the session, and the rest of the field will be out in the second session. Christian Lundgaard pedaling a little faster now. He's turned the lap, but it's 68.195. Louis Foster at a 68.367. Connor Daly climbing up the ladder at a 68.621. Devlin DeFrancesco, Santino Ferrucci, Alexander Rossi, Will Power, Jacob Abel, 9th fastest at a 69.966. Joseph Newgarden, 10th. Scott Dixon is 11th. Robert Schwartzman is 12th. He is at a 69.951. Then Kiffin Simpson, Felix Rosenquist, and Graham Rahal. I know that you don't get old man winter to visit this portion of the country, not like we do in the Midwest, certainly. And now that we've been at this 13, 14 years here, how much has this surface changed over the course of time? Has it weathered pretty well, and does it grip up faster?
Yeah, no, I think it's weathered really, really well. I don't think there's a huge difference from year to year. You may look back 7 years ago to today and say, oh yeah, it's weathered a little bit and it's dropped off some speed. But from year to year, I think it's really, really close. You can't tell a difference. Now, they do get rain, they do get some cool weather, but not enough to really damage this racetrack. And I'll have to say that this facility, they keep it so up to date, and they use it year round. And I just think it doesn't have a big fall off in speed or any big changes from year to year.
What's your favorite portion of this racetrack?
Well, I think, it's anytime you go to racetrack, there's a lot of straightaways and you need to gain speed on, but that's not the funnest part. And I think really the most challenging parts is really back to what we talked about down in 7, 8 area, and then back going into 12, 13 area where that crest is, and I think that's what gets the most out of a driver. So I'd say that's probably the most fun as far as trying to really challenge yourself.
I've always felt like that if you're good through that wiggle between 8 and 9, and then you make that sweeping right-hander in front of that museum, I tell you, if you can be fast through there and run quick along that spectator viewing area, I've always thought the cars look really, really quick, but going from 10 to 11.
That is another thing, going through that chicane back there, because that is not easy going through their flat. Another challenge if you have to hit it just right. And once you get that right and have that confidence, I think that corner, because it's not so blind, that you can feel more confident in that. But every time you go through these other ones, and even going up the hill over turn 4, going into 5, it's a big challenge.
I mean, you got to feel like when you exit 3 and you start to climb up to turn number 4, you almost got to feel like you're in a rocket because you're looking straight up the sky.
That's right. That's all you see is the sky. And then when it crests, I mean, you can be in a situation to where, you know, you definitely lose grip. And we've seen Newgarden do that the first lap a few years ago where he spun his tires, spun in front of the entire field, as I think we see
Felix
Rosenqvist went off track. He is slowly going around the outside of the sand trap or gravel trap, and
he wants to stay out of that gravel.
Yeah, he'll momentarily venture back onto the track.
Yeah, so we're getting a look at the replay now.
Yeah.
And just through that area we just talked about.
That's right. So he made it through 1, but then just too fast. We've seen that happen last year. And I think he may have been one of the ones that went up there last year as well. But he got a lot of rocks on, but he made it through the gravel trap to slow these cars down and to the grass, which is a really good idea, having that little grass strip before the barrier to where if you do save it, you could make it on around. And no damage to that car. Not real speed that he wants either for, you know, he's 7th quickest at this point in the session.
Yeah, and look at he pulled some gravel up out of that trap with him and took it, deposited back out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, his friends, the other racers don't really like that gravel, but you know, he did the best he could by getting off it. Still, actually, he's already down in 10, 11, 12, and still throwing gravel off that race car.
So Felix Rosenqvist with a bit of it off, and we had seen McLaughlin go off a couple of times in that first 40-minute session, but other than that, relatively clean and green. And as we mentioned, you know, we have gone caution-free except for the very first lap going back to the season opener in St. Petersburg. And boy, this place, I think the most cautions we've ever had here, we said earlier, I think was 6.
6, yeah.
And 5 times we have had just a single solitary caution. So all of that could figure prominently into the race strategy as the clock is just about to run out on this first 12-minute session with Herta P1 with a 68.258, then Power, Rossi, Newgarden, Dixon, Lundgaard, Foster, Rosenqvist, Rahal, Daly, DeFrancesco, Ferrucci, Abel, Schwartzman, and then Simpson. Well, as we mentioned, Scott McLaughlin is going for the three-peat here. And Scott McLaughlin was with Alex Wolff earlier today before this practice session.
Well, Scott, I guess first off, congratulations are in order. I know a lot of folks saw that you became a U.S. citizen this week. Tell us about that.
Oh, look, it's nice to firmly sort of put down your roots. I mean, I owe a lot to this country and you know, my wife and my daughter, but also, you know, just my career. And, you know, really, really proud to do that and be a dual citizen. You know, I'm a Kiwi at heart for sure, but, you know, to be here and be here for the foreseeable future is a good thing too.
Absolutely is a good thing. And I guess as somebody even growing up, it seemed like you were really into American culture. So is this something that had sort of been on your radar for a while?
Yeah, I mean, my mum and dad were infatuated with America, so that sort of got bled down to me. And I always wanted to be here. Even before I met my wife, Carly, I always wanted to be here. The whole reason I went to Roger in the first place was the chance to be here in America. And, yeah, I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. I love this place. And, yeah, I'm very, very excited for what the future holds.
And you've been thriving here in America, and especially thriving here at Barber Motorsports Park. Won 2 in a row, going for 3 in a row. What is it about Scott McLaughlin and Barber Motorsports Park that just seems to be a perfect marriage?
I don't know. I think I really like the track, the way that flows, and the fast corners, slow corners. A lot of commitment as well, so that's what I really enjoy. It reminds me of a track back home in Australia, Phillip Island, which is a track that I always went really well at in the supercar as well. So sort of hopefully we can keep that trend going. You know, the wins have been great, but obviously it's going to be a bit more inconsistent than we probably have seen this weekend with the rain potentially on Saturday and whatnot. But yeah, we're in a good spot and know that we've got a car that we can definitely win with.
Now, when you talk about the potential for rain with this track, does the high commitment areas change, or are they just magnified with the rain? Is this sort of a Jekyll and Hyde track between dry and wet?
Yeah, I think the high commitment corners get more higher commitment, you know, in the rain, and trying to find the grip, the rubber, or get off the rubber as quick as you can as well. There's a lot of good drivers in the series that are good on the rain, so it's you know, qualifying will be just as competitive, regardless if it's wet or dry. So it's just a matter of you putting putting it together yourself.
Now, of course, it's the month of May officially. We're here at Barber. A lot of folks maybe want to focus on what's going on at 16th and Georgetown the next 3 weekends after this. Was it easy for you to sort of stay focused when you come to a track they've had so much success at? Because it pays an equal amount of points as they will up at Indianapolis.
Well, it's a nice feeling to, like, hopefully we can start our month off right and just get the momentum going, because momentum is everything in the series, and if you can roll into the biggest race of the year with some momentum, that's always a good thing. So, you know, I feel really strong, you know, for the month. I had a great open test. You know, I felt really probably the strongest I've felt ever. So that was a really good feeling. So it's just a matter of just putting it together and see where we're at.
Of course, another change going back to Indianapolis, going here at Barber, the hybrid units, the debuted at Mid-Ohio last year. Yeah. Has it changed a place like Barber with the hybrid unit?
Yeah, for sure. We tested here not long ago, and it was definitely a lot more different than I thought it was going to be. So the feeling, the weight, and the way that the car feels in that time as well. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how we all tackle it and the different philosophies on each cars. But we'll see what we got.
Well, Scott, again, congratulations on becoming a new U.S. citizen, and we wish you a lot of luck this weekend.
Thank you, man. Cheers. Thanks, Alex.
Yep, trying to go for the three-peat here at Barber Motorsports Park. Been an up-and-down season for Scott McLaughlin, 4th at St. Pete, 27th at Thermal, 6th at Long Beach. His teammate is out of the car. His day is done. Let's find out what the thoughts are of Will Power, who's had a fair amount of success here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yeah, talk about the 4 poles, 2 wins here. You were quick here in this session. You had an opportunity to test. Did a lot of that translate to make you quicker?
Yeah, basically what we ran. Obviously it's harder, so we changed a few things, but yeah, pretty close to what we ran at the test. Car's definitely in the window. A few little changes that can make it better, so let's see what we can do.
Certainly not like living up north where you have a lot of snow, ice, and bad winters. How has this track changed, if any, over the years?
Not much. I mean, it always gets, you know, as the track degrades, you know, you get more drag in the tires, which is good for the racing, which is sort of the case. I mean,
has there been a corner of the track that's more difficult or trickier than it used? Has there been a portion of the track that's trickier than it used to be?
Not really. I mean, it's been the same the whole time. I mean, it's a fantastic track, very rewarding to drive, so a lot of commitment.
Finally, assess the tires, the primaries, the alternates. Where do you feel they'll be on race day?
Yeah, it was not as big a gap as I thought. Yeah, it's probably 4 to 5 tenths is it. Maybe less, like 4 tenths.
Sounds like a winner. We'll see you tomorrow in qualifying. See you tomorrow in qualifying. Best luck. That's what's Will Power. He was taking a drink, and certainly was excruciatingly hot in the cockpit of that car. It was 84 and up to 86, but the air trying to breathe a little coolness here at Barber Motorsports Park, but it is a warm one today.
We talked about McLaughlin, Davey, going for 3 in a row. Will Power with a couple of wins and 4 poles, as Michael said. How about 5 podiums, 11 top 5s, and he has started on the front row 9 times here at Barber.
Yeah, really impressive. I mean, you know, Will, obviously, he's the qualifying king. He's got the record. He has more poles than anybody else, so you know he can get it done. And we've seen him in victory lane many times, and he's not finished. You know, we always say, well, he's the oldest guy on the team, so how long is he going to continue to run for Penske? How long is that ride available? But I have to think along. I mean, he still gets the job done, and he's showing that again today.
This group is Kyle Kirkwood, Scott McLaughlin, Alex Palou, Marcus Erickson, Pato Ward, David Malukas, Stingray Robb, Nolan Siegel, Renus VK, Callum Ilott, Christian Rasmussen, Louis Foster, Marcus Armstrong, and Robert Schwartzman. Greatest day in motorsports right around the corner. Nick Yeoman, Brad Gilley for the Performance Racing Network. We'll preview the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. It's all Sunday, May 25th at 10 a.m. That gets you ready for a full day of racing. It is indeed the greatest day in motorsports. So that's all right around the corner, Davey. I mean, you know, our focus certainly is on this fabulous event here, but just a few days from now, we'll be back home and at the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for the Sanzio Grand Prix, which promises to be an entertaining event, as it always is. I'll tell you, there's a lot of racetracks, I think, that have signature portions, but for me, the start or a restart of a race there with what they do at the end of that 5/8 mile straightaway going into that right hander.
Yeah, the braking, 4 wide, sometimes 5 wides, can create havoc. But talk about 2 complete different permanent road courses between here and there. I mean, it's day and night different. There's no similarities whatsoever between those two events. So, yeah, two-day event. I think Friday and Saturday next week we're there. It's practice, qualifying, right to the race, getting after it, then take a couple days off before they get on that 2.5-mile oval.
Yeah, and of course we will have complete coverage each and every day of every lap of practice in preparation for the 109th Indianapolis 500 along all the usual outlets. One of my favorite days is Fast Friday, where they get to do just that. Yeah. They go fast, and we'll have that covered for you. And then 2 complete days of qualifying, and then of course after that they do have that practice session the day after qualifying, which is always an entertaining day because that's when all 33 are out there.
Yeah, you know, and one thing about that day is you want to get the most out of your car. You want to, in race conditions, you're going to be out there in a lot of drafting, a lot of dirty air, just trying to get your car the best you can. But then you also do not want to make a mistake after you've qualified that car and don't want to have an accident and have to fix it. As we talked with Bobby Rahal, they're just now getting Takuma's car fixed from last week. Then that open test, and there's a lot of work that goes into that, especially at Indy where they do these body fits. As he said, they stayed up till midnight last night doing a body fit. And basically, if you look at a car here, majority of them, and then you go to look at it, the cars at Indy, you can't even see a seam where the cowling goes on to the side pods and so forth. So they really haven't slicked up for there.
Kyle Kirkwood, with just about 7 minutes remaining in this session, is going to P1 at a 68.151. Warren Rasmussen had robbed the top 4. Scott McLaughlin's on the primaries. He's 5th fastest at a 68.938. Then Louis Foster, Erickson, Abel on the alternates. VK, Malukas, Pillow, and Siegel through 12th on the primaries, along with Marcus Armstrong, and Robert Schwartzman currently running 14th. He is on the alternate.
Yeah, you know, Schwartzman, that's another rookie driver coming over here with that Pyramid race team. Obviously, new team, new driver. He's not familiar with these racetracks. No surprise that he is probably struggling a little bit. I mean, I don't think they had their cars in the window where they need to be. And the reason I say that is Ilot's the teammate. He has experience in these cars. He knows what it takes to run up front. I just think they're missing something there. They'll get it. Don't get me wrong. They're spending a lot of money to make that a really good team.
Spent a lot of time this morning, as I said earlier, at the hotel with former NTT INDYCAR Series driver Ryan Briscoe, who's guiding the fortunes for Robert Schwartzman for the Suprema team, and asked him what the goal was for Robert at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He said it's just such a different animal than anything that he's ever tackled before. He said bottom line is we were just trying to get laps in the race car and do so cleanly, and all in all they were pretty pleased with how the test went.
Well, you know, typical rookie as well, honestly, because I know in the cockpit he's going, I'm going too slow. I need to be faster on the straightaways. I can't catch these guys. Well, we know how frustrating it can be at Indy because things happen so quick, and changes that you make happen. You know, you just got to do teeny changes at a time. So that is that anxiousness of a driver wanting to go faster, right? So you just got to be careful, make sure he gets up to speed slowly, methodically. That's why there's a week-long practice.
I remember a few years ago, and you know, MX5 is here this weekend, and you know, Chad McCovey, he's been around forever, and he's heavily involved with that series. And you know, he had a pretty good eye for talent in that series, and it still does, of course. And I asked him one time, I said, what do you look for in terms of a young driver? And you and I have talked about this before. He said, listen, I often he said there's really no way you can make a guy go faster who's not fast, but he said I would rather take a guy who's fast and teach him to slow it down and be patient a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that even with a veteran of Grosjean, you know, who was in the series. I mean, he came here right off super fast, but then he just, you know, they couldn't get him back up where he needed to be. He was just always on the pipe, going fast, super fast, by the way. A guy that we both thought would be in victory lane. We both thought he'd be, you know, potentially a race champion over here, but just couldn't finish off these races. Obviously, he did well over in Formula One, but just didn't fit the mold over here at IndyCar.
His first year with Andretti, if you remember the first 3 races, I don't think anybody had worse luck than he did.
Yeah.
He was caught up in incidents when he was running toward the front. None of them had anything to do with him, and I don't know that he ever recovered.
He never recovered from that. That's exactly right. Just started off bad, continued to get worse, and even the times, and I think maybe at that point you try too hard. You know, your expectations were way higher than that. He expected to go right to the front in that Andretti team, and just things just didn't go his way. And that's one of those things where sometimes you got to just take a breath, step back, say, first thing I'm going to do is I want to finish this race. I'm going to finish it, no question about it, and learn from that entire race how I can be better and try to win them.
Kyle Kirkwood continues P1 at a 68.151. Pato Award, who we've not talked about much today, is suddenly finding speed. He is at a 68.213, and then Christian Rasmussen is at a 68.495. Callum Ilott, Stingray Robb through 5th, and Ericsson, McLaughlin, Foster, and Robert Schwartzman. We see Marcus Armstrong pedaling just a bit quicker now. He is 3rd fastest. Jacob Abel 11th quick. Renus VK 12th. David Malukas is 14th. David Malukas 13th. Alex Palou is currently running in the 15th position, and Nolan Siegel is 15th fastest, and he is setting at a 1:10.459. So that's kind of the disparity right now, Davey, from P1 to P15. And we should mention Alex Palou just turned the fastest lap at a 67.797.
And that really puts him, you see, it was actually Ericsson fastest in that first group at a 1:07.74. And then Herta ran a 1:07.77. Power 7.8, and then you got Palou, so he'd be 4th quickest overall.
He's done everything here but win the race, Michael Young. Scott Dixon.
Yeah, I don't even know. I ask him these questions, and then he kind of puts them off as, this is one you've never won. You've been on the podium so many times. You've achieved so much in your career. I don't think if you never win here, it's going to, oh, man, can you believe Dixon didn't win at Barber? What is it like when you come here? How is the desire there, or what does that feel like?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we've had 10 podiums, maybe 6 second-place finishes, so it'd be nice to get that one more spot. It's always fun to come here to Birmingham. The fans are fantastic. Obviously, this track is really cool. It races really well as well. You know, I think when we came here in the early years, we thought it was not going to be that much of a racetrack for us, but interesting weekend, maybe with weather. You know, obviously tomorrow it looks like it could be raining or thunderstorms for qualifying. That will spice it up as well, and then you know, we'll see how it goes for the race. But you know, always love coming here, and hopefully one day we can get on that top spot.
You waited to put the alternates on. Assess the primaries and the alternates and what you think they'll be like on race day.
Yeah, we had a few issues there just with getting a change done, so we had to wait a lot longer than we thought we would. I'd say balance-wise, you know, listening to people that came here for the test, I think we were the only team that didn't test here. It sounded like everybody's really loose, and, you know, we kind of probably over-adjusted for that. Had a ton of understeer, and then we were just trying to get back on top of that. But, yeah, I think, you know, if you look at historical data, thermal, you know, here last year, you know, the red's probably going to be the favorite time.
And lastly, Indianapolis 500 test, your takeaway from that you were quick. It could be number 2.
Yeah, the car was good, man. You know, I think day 2 was a little rougher, you know, for us. I think just with some changes, we couldn't really back out. But day 1, the car was fantastic. You know, qualifying sims were difficult. You know, I think when they tried to do a 2-hour session with all 33 cars trying to get clear laps was a bit of a mission. But, you know, looking forward to the month of May. Obviously, we've got this weekend and you know, IRC next weekend. But, you know, the big one's coming up, man. It's coming up, and hopefully we peak at the right time. I lied, really. Your son Kit now at a go-kart. How's that as a dad? Yeah, probably in trouble, man. That was more his mother trying to push that train. You know, it's a lot of fun, obviously. You know, all of our kids have driven go-karts a little bit. It was the first time for Kit, and yeah, he definitely loved it. So yeah, I can see that being a big project now. All right, we appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. Thanks, man. Cheers. There he is, Scott Dixon.
And not a cheap project either.
Let me promise you, it's not a good project. Let me promise you, that's something that tennis is really good. You know, because you know what? You don't have to pay greens fees. You don't have to buy a race car. You don't have to buy a dirt bike. You just go to a tennis court and then hit the ball back and forth. Very inexpensive, and they pays really good if you're good at it as well. So.
I thought it was interesting that Michael was kind of, you know, he didn't want to make too much about the fact that he hadn't won here, and he said, you probably don't think much about it. It probably doesn't ever cross your mind. And he was pretty quick to remind Michael how many podiums and run-up finishes he had.
He knows where he stands.
Yeah, he knows exactly where he stands. And the checkered flag flies on a relatively uneventful session, and Alex Palou is P1 at a 67.760, and then McLaughlin, Kirkwood, Award, and Armstrong Armstrong through 5th, and then Rasmussen, Eilert, Stingray, Robb, Erickson, Foster, then Siegel, Schwartzman, then Abel. VK jumped up to 8th, fastest in the session, right at the checkers. And then we'll go Siegel 12th, Schwartzman 13th, Abel 14th, and then David Malukas 15th. So your thoughts on what has been a relatively uneventful day, and we think that a lot of drivers got some questions answered.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was very important as that we talk about the rain tomorrow, but I look at another thing. There's optimal laps here, and what that optimal laps tells you is if you are your best lap that you could do, if you could put it all together of what you've done in the past laps, it puts that together, and that would put Palou number 1 at a 67.57, then McLaughlin at 67.88, Pato O'Ward, Kirkwood, Rasmussen, Armstrong, and Eilert, the top 7. By the way, that doesn't even put Colton Herta in that game right there. So Colton Herta right now is let me see, he's 3rd quickest overall right now. It's Erickson, Palou, Herta right now is the fast 3, or the 2 groups added together.
So with the alterations of the length of these sessions going to the 1 40-minute session, then the 2 separate 12-minute sessions, did that give them a better opportunity? Maybe it just forced them into run more, run sooner, not to take that wait-and-see approach, but do you think they have a pretty good idea of the deck now between the alternates and the primaries between qualifying and racing?
I think they do, and I don't know if that time really made any difference, but it did keep the cars on racetrack, and that was one thing that the IndyCar Series wanted to do, is have cars on the track as much as possible. And actually, right now, we'll talk to Colton Herta with Michael.
Quick in this session, I always love your assessment of tires. What do you think of the primaries, the alternates? Where do we stand, and what would you prefer during the race?
It's a good question. Seems pretty normal as far as road course racing goes, how the tire compounds feel this weekend. I guess just a preference that the black tire got a little bit stiffer compared to last year, but I believe the red tire is very similar. So, and that's kind of what it feels like. So, still don't have all the knowledge about race running and what we should be doing there. So we'll have a look at everything. But both compounds feel raceable, and so it should be interesting strategy-wise.
It's always interesting with the potential for rain, and not that we wish rain on any race session, but I've remembered several sessions where you had wets on and you put on quite a show. Do you ever hope for rain, or would you rather it be dry, and if it rains, and you take it one step at a time?
I would say I'm good in the wet, but I hate driving in the wet. It's no fun. I hate just getting disgusting and gross and being. I already hate being sweaty out here today, but then when you're on top of that, you got your dumped water all over the place on you, and it's no fun for us inside of the car. I know it's no fun for the fans and people that came to watch and enjoy the race. So we're hoping if anything happens, it looks like it might rain tomorrow, but Sunday should be beautiful. If it does rain tomorrow, had you learned enough today that you'll feel comfortable in the race? Yeah, and I feel like we're in a good spot right now. Obviously, we ended, I think we were quickest in our session, and maybe close to quickest overall. I think Palou might have gotten a little bit faster there. But, so yeah, that means we're in a good spot. Put our heads down now and try to see how we can find a little bit more time to best the rest of these guys. Best of luck tomorrow, and start getting ungross. Thank you. There you go. That's Colton Herta. Certainly all the Andretti cars quick thus far here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Michael brings up an interesting point, Davey. You qualify in the rain tomorrow, and looking forward to the forecast is going to be interesting. Now they'll qualify the same tire, tread compound, and everything on the rain tire that they brought here 1 year ago. We do know that from the good folks at Firestone. But what an interesting set of circumstances if you qualify tomorrow, knowing that there's nothing about qualifying that's going to carry over.
I know, right? That's exactly right. So such a big guess game at this point. And that's one thing when it rains, you think, like if it rained today, all these drivers would be out there. Even if it's dry tomorrow, it shows dry tomorrow. For the reason is these teams don't get that much race practice. And it's always good to have some data, no matter what track you go to, on what to kind of change on your race cars. It could be a massive amount of things to do. And so even though it's raining, they try to take advantage of that.
I want to thank Colton Herta for saying what I've always believed, even when some drivers have said over the years that they enjoy driving in the rain, and I've never believed.
Well, you know what? I'm on Colt's side. When people say, man, I love the rain, I go, you lying. You know what I mean? Because I definitely don't enjoy it. My very first time on road course at Laguna Seca, I had to do a couple days in the rain, and you get through it, and I felt like I did okay at it, but it wasn't. I would much rather it be dry.
Busy day tomorrow. Indy next practice session number 2 is set for 9:10 local time, 10:10 Eastern, and then at 10:30 the final IndyCar practice session of the weekend. That'll be at 11:30 Eastern, and then 12:30 local time, 1:30 Eastern for Indy next quals to set the field for their race on Sunday. Happy to have those guys back with us for sure. And then at 1:30 local time, 2:30 Eastern tomorrow, knockout qualifying of the Firestone Fast 6, and then on Sunday at 9 o'clock local time, 10 o'clock Eastern, the final 30-minute warm-up session, and then Indy next race action takes the air at 10:25, 11:25 Eastern time, and then complete coverage of the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix, powered by AmFirst, comes your way at 12 o'clock local time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock. On-site engineering and production courtesy of Rick Evans. Our thanks to Alex Wolf and Michael Young for their contributions during the show. For our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton, this is Mark Janes. So long for now from beautiful Barber Motorsports Park.